So Candace, how have you been doing with all that's going on at the moment?
You mean with the quarantine and COVID-19 and the world going through this massive change?
No, I just meant like the last 5 minutes. Yes,
Well,
that's what
dinner
I
was
meant.
good.
Okay, good.
Um, well, it's been a lot to process, a lot to think about, and I've enjoyed some downtime, but it has definitely brought up a lot of different emotions and things that I've gone through in my past. And I basically feel like all the spiritual work I've been doing was for this time. It feels like everything I've ever learned is relevant right now. And it's all teaching me and reminding me and testing me on my ability to work with the moment and to be present and to go with the flow and to let go of attachment. And I basically feel like a lot of the things in my past that used to be so difficult are coming back up in a different way to see if it's going to be difficult, if I'm going to resist it again, or if I'm going to cling to it, such as my money and not being able to pay bills because I have no work or no income coming in. Back in 2008, I was hit personally pretty hard through the recession. At that time, I was in my mid 20s and I was trying to be a straight A citizen, paying my bills on time, bought a house young, doing all the things right, never made a late payment. And I was majorly affected with my ex's job loss and an inability to pay our house. And that was about the best thing that happened as far as me going through a spiritual breakthrough, because at that point I wasn't really on the spiritual quest and I was just doing all the things I was supposed to. But that between 2008 and 2010 was such a difficult period of me being so angry. I was part of the Occupy Wall Street movement. I even joined an anarchist group at that point. I was so furious. I was so mad at the government. I was so irate and I had nightmares about the government and I could not stand what was happening to the world. And it pushed me to my edges. I don't remember a time in my life I was more sleepless or angry at the world at large as I was back then. And I realized I couldn't live like that. So I started getting into spirituality. And at that point, 2010, 2011, 2012, the whole Mayan stuff was coming out about the 2012 conscious shift. And I started doing a lot of research about that. And to move it forward, I ended up short selling my house. My ex and I moved to California from Portland. We lived in Portland at the time, moved to California, and things did not go well, and we found ourselves homeless. And I experienced some of the hardest edges of living in a car and not eating much for weeks and being beyond late on bills. But I also found freedom in it. One night we went to a Jack in a Box at like 3 or 4 in the morning. We had just driven around all night and tried to stay by the beach in Malibu, and then we drove to a Jack in a Box and bought $1 fries and just sat outside. We bought the fries just so we could eat something and stay outside. And then when the sun started to peak up, then we drove back to the beach and just slept on the beach.
Wow.
And we did this a few times to just try to like burn time down. But there was one morning where I went back to the beach and there's a pod of dolphins and I watched the sun come up on Malibu, and I realized like this is freedom. This is it. This is what the Mayans and everyone's talking about, is that freedom's a state of mind. This is Buddha. This is Jesus. This is everything. Like the kingdom of heaven is within us. And in that moment, it didn't matter that I was 3 months late on bills and had no home and I didn't know what was coming next. I realized like all that stuff I put pressure on me from the taxes and the thoughts of what I thought the government wanted from me was all gone. I realized I can constantly live in this state of mind, this conscious shift and this conscious awakening by realizing like that has no hold on me. It's all inside of me. And so I sat there and watched the dolphins, and I was like, this is one of the most beautiful experiences that I would have never had I had not pushed myself to do something so dramatic in my life. Like waking up at 5 in the morning, laying on the beach watching a pod of dolphins, and it was like high def, the most beautiful view, just this late fall morning, so warm, there was no one out, and I thought there's no way I would have ever had this moment if I didn't go through this. And but what was so profound was this moment of like, I feel so good experiencing one of the things that I most dreaded, being homeless. There was this liberation of like, the government can take everything from me, but they can't take me. They can't take this moment of me enjoying life the way it is right now. And so what I'm coming back to in this whole thing that we're going through is all these uncertainties. Will I have a job in a few months? I think so, but I'm not sure. Am I going to be able to pay my bills again? What's going to happen? And I realized, like, the government can kick me out. They can take my stuff. And sure, it's going to be uncomfortable, and no doubt I'm going to be pushed to some edges. But I realized, like, it's up to me to decide whether I'm going to be happy or not, and to find my freedom inside of myself. And I realized, like, today being Easter, Jesus was killed on the cross, and he still decided to forgive him and to find peace and found eternal life inside of the way that he viewed it all. And I realized, like, we can, this conscious shift, this conscious awakening that the world is going through is our perception of it. It's up to us to find the peace inside of ourselves no matter what happens to us.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. And it brings up thoughts for me about how this time, this moment is such an incredible teacher. And I, like you, also feel like my whole life has been leading up to this moment. I mean, in a way it has for everyone. Like, our lives have led us up to this moment. But all of the learnings and the things that have been culminating and congealing for me in my own self-discovery, all of the self-help and spirituality work that I've done, just trying to like make sense of life and make sense of why I feel the way I feel and think the way I think, and why certain things upset me and other things don't. And I've just, as you know, dived so deep into that work, and man, has it paid off. And it's so incredible how it's paid off in the way that it has, timing with this event, because this event is literally, I posted an article earlier today that was all about like the reality of what we're facing with what's happening with COVID, and the fact that a major depression is almost inevitable, from kind of like a true economist's perspective. And at first you go like, oh my God, like this could literally mean like, this lifestyle that we've led being gone, like this be the end of it. And it makes me think of what you said, like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay my bills. Like, you may not even, you may not, that may be a moot point. It may be a situation where this place that we've lived in, where the kind of the majority has lived somewhere between, lower class to middle class, and still had access to resources to literally like, a complete like depletion of those, or possibly war, or all these things that can seem really scary and frightening. And in reading that article, I read it and was like, oh my God, like I immediately found myself getting sucked into that. And then I went for a run. And on my run, I had a straight up epiphany. Like an epiphany I've had so many times before, but it just keeps getting better every time I have it. And that epiphany has to do with what this all is, and what I really believe is the truth about what this all is. It's what science has proven this all is. It's what spirituality has proven. It's what all these different teachings have shown in different ways, but it's the same message. And the same message is that we're all one. It's all one thing. And so while you may have like some of the, and science shows it's energy. It's all energy. And science has proven you cannot destroy energy. It changes, it moves, it goes over here, takes form like this, and takes form like this, but it's always changing, always moving. You can't destroy it. That is our souls. That is that connection that we have to all of this that cannot be destroyed. So while the the world could collapse, like we could lose our lives, we could die, but that eternal part of us cannot perish. And what then it got me thinking about, that's been just really profound for me, is I spent a lot of time thinking about the energy side of things, and the law of attraction specifically, but just how energy works in a way where it feeds on the things that give it energy. One of the biggest being resistance. So you see this all over the place. You see this in, like, I was doing planks after my run, and I'm holding myself up, and my body starts to shake and it starts to heat up because I'm creating resistance against gravity, and that resistance is creating energy in me. Same as when you fight back from something. Or like in dating, I think is a perfect example. Like, the harder you push trying to get someone, the more tendency there is for that person to pull away, because they're like, ugh, or to resist you, to resist or to pull away, one way or another, to avoid you. And what's fascinating to me about all of this thinking, and what it led me to, was it's so contradictory to what we feel makes sense. We feel and believe that we need to protect and hold on to this thing we have. We're like, oh my God, I love this life I have. Like, I don't want to let go of it. It's good. And like, everything could fall apart for me. And in fact, maybe I'll grab a little more while I'm at it so that I can make sure like I'm really well padded, so I've got all the things I need. And the irony of it is the more we try to do that on an energetic level, the greater the chances are of it just like slipping right through our fingers. And what you and I have been talking about, and I want to hand it back over to you, but it's just how literally in order to take the energy back, the power away from something, instead of doing the thing that feels so natural to do us, which is to resist, which is to hold on, which is to fight and push back, instead it is to let go and to let it flow, to let it plow you over. And the fascinating thing is we're so afraid to do it because we're afraid that the outcome will be bad. It makes sense in our minds, our minds, which are logic based, which are based on thinking about what we had in the past and what could happen in the future. And they're so fixed on, well, if I let go, then I'll lose everything. The irony of it is the energy doesn't have anything to feed on if you don't resist it. If you just say, fine, take me, take everything, the energy's like, oh, well, that sucks. And it may not manifest that way immediately, but one of the teachings I use in my coaching is I talk about anxiety, and how when that energy comes up in your body and you feel all yucky, the tendency is to like try to get out of it. And the more you try to get out of it, the more you feed it. But when you can go, all right, these are the emotions, these are the feelings I'm having in my body, the energy I'm having, and I'm just gonna let it overtake me. It pretty quickly goes, well, this sucks. This guy's no fun. I don't want to give him anxiety because he likes it. He's welcoming it. And I think the last note I want to add is this, that makes me think of Buddha. And it makes me think of the story of Buddha. When Buddha became enlightened, Buddha went up on a hill. He sat by a tree, and he spent a night there. I'm butchering the story, but his demons, his shadow, showed up, and it attacked him. And they attacked him, and when they attacked, they threw spears and shot arrows at him, and the spears and arrows turned into flowers. And the reason they turned into flowers is because he was like, go ahead, take me. I am you. You are me. So go ahead and stab me. And it literally eliminated the power from his demons, and he was enlightened. And so, I don't know, do you have some thoughts to bounce off of that?
Yeah, a lot. It makes me think of how, I've been studying the Tao for years, and how we need all the opposing things to break us free. And for me, the government was something I've resisted for so long, but they are actually the catalyst for my spiritual awakening and breakthrough. I don't think I would have pushed so hard to understand life and freedom if I didn't feel this opposing force. And I realized that they are me, because we're one. They aren't one. It's not me versus them. It's not the 1% versus the 99. We're a whole being.
Explain how you've said how we create the government.
Oh, well, Ram Dass taught me that in his book Be Here Now, it says the hippies create the cops create the hippies, and we need each other. We need to have the opposing forces, just like we have our shadows, just like we have any opposition in our lives.
Can't have light without dark,
right,
to contrast it.
We don't know health without illness. We don't know anything without the opposite. And I've wanted freedom so bad from the moment I can remember. I opposed my parents, I've opposed teachers, I opposed the law, I opposed government, everything. And I realized, like, all that to chase freedom. Like, I didn't like having this thing telling me how to live. And I needed that opposition in order to find the freedom inside of myself. Free. And I created some kind of force that would actually make me realize, like, I created that as an obstacle to find myself. And that government has no power over me anymore the way it used to, because I realized, like, they're just a thing in my life, and I can find freedom and they can take everything away, but they can't take me. So there is no war inside of me when I choose to just let go. And I'm like, you cannot break my soul.
Yeah.
You can take everything, but you can't take my essence or my soul. And that is freedom. That's the freedom I've been wanting my whole life. And I realized that gives me this eternal power. And that is what I believe is the conscious shift, is realizing, like, when I don't need the government controlling me, and I see them as me, I realize I've been trying to control myself the same way that I think that they've been controlling me. And something that I've thought about is, and this is far-fetched for a lot of people, but I had a radical thinking dad, and a dad that really opposed the government like I have, which is probably somewhere I've got it from. But I recognize if we all just walked out of our homes, if they come telling us that we can't have our stuff, we all walk out there just surrendering and free, they're not going to have power over us. They need us, we need them, in order to keep the culture the way it is. And what true liberation is letting things just move and purify us, and letting go of the way it is right now for the way that it will be. And my favorite story of all times of transformation is the butterfly. The butterfly goes from this caterpillar into the cocoon into the butterfly. We all know the story, but it can't go through the process if it doesn't constantly let go and adapt to whatever it's changing to. And we're the same. If we want the true eternal freedom, then we gotta be willing to adapt at whatever life throws at us, and know that we are essentially divine beings, and the government is part of that. Like, that is the force, and illness is the force, and death is the force, and all these things that we're so scared of right now going through this time in our history. Those are the forces break us out to see that they are a greatest part of ourselves, to find ourselves one with all of that. And they can't take away our eternal beings.
Well, and I love that. We really don't exist without them. That's the thing that I'm excited for you and I to continue talking about and trying to teach about, because it's a really radical idea that I know a lot of people at first glance reject. But science has shown it. A lot of religions and spiritual teachings have shown it. It's been around. This is regurgitated. Yeah. And the reason it's regurgitated is because we're all regurgitated. Like, literally everything is one, just shifting. So it's fascinating, the stuff you're talking about, to think of these forces that we're afraid of, or that we resist, that we loathe and hate and fear, are actually necessary for us to be in the states that we want to be. In order to be free, we need somebody who makes us not free. Mm-hmm. In order to be, happy, we need somebody who can potentially make us sad, who can oppose that, mm-hmm. so that it creates that contrast of being. What I find so fascinating is this whole concept of, like, freedom is a state of mind, and the idea that everything changes constantly. The energy's moving all the time. The energy's moving. So again, back to that anxiety bit, the energy gets in your body, and you can count on it not staying there. Like, it leaves.
That's true.
It sometimes feels like it stays a long time because we keep feeding it and feeding it and feeding it. Same with depression and some of the the sicknesses that come about us, the diseases, the dis-ease. We're not at ease. And we create that in ourselves, and we end up getting really sick because we literally like repeat it. When in fact, what this experience is meant to allow us to do is to show us to like keep moving, keep flowing, go with whatever the energy's doing. Okay, you lost your house, your house got foreclosed on. All right, go with that. Put a smile on your face. Find a way to just be happy anyway. You find yourself on the corner with your family and a couple of suitcases and that's it. Find the sun. Find something. Find a way to go, okay, this won't last forever, because it won't.
That's true.
There's no way any of it lasts forever.
That's true.
I mean, the worst thing that happens is you die. And then when you die, you get out of having to deal with all that stuff anyway. You die and the body perishes, and the energy, the consciousness that is basically what you are, conscious recognizing itself, just whoop, goes right back into the whole thing. So it's really funny to me too to watch like the 1% and Donald Trump and the government, you know, kind of like, it definitely feels like there's some conspiracy stuff going on. It feels like there's this plan potentially to, you know, take maybe or maybe not COVID has something to do with it, but either way they're taking advantage of it. You know, this stimulus situation has been a total joke. Like they said, oh, we're going to do a $2 trillion stimulus and nobody's gotten the money. And it's like, okay, everybody's having to close their doors and we're already at 16 million unemployed in 3 weeks. Like that's 10% of our working population out of jobs in 3 weeks. And it's funny because you see that stuff going on and you think, okay, this doesn't look good. This looks like we could be looking at some George Orwellian dystopian state where everybody's a slave to Amazon before we know it. Like, your mind can go there.
Yeah.
The irony of it is even if that did happen, it won't stay that way. It will transform. Those rich will get ultra rich, and then eventually the universe will automatically knock them down. The poor will get so poor that they'll just swallow it. I mean, it's literally all one and the same anyway.
Right.
And so that's the thing that's so fascinating, is just to go like, whatever, and I talk about this in another video I just recorded, whatever hand you get dealt, whatever cards the universe deals you, you got to play those cards. Like, that's it. You can get all pissed about them, like, I hate these cards and I'm not going to play them, and be all mad and scared and freaking out and, you know, doing all kinds of crazy stuff or panicking or feeling sick, whatever the thing is. Or you can go, all right, I got 5 2s. You can't have 5 2s. I got 4 2s and a 3 in my hand. The junkiest hand. Actually, no, that'd be 4 of a kind. Pretty decent. Whatever cards you get, you got to play those.
Yeah.
And know that you're going to trade some in and get some new ones. Like, it's inevitable.
Yeah. Today on my bike ride, I saw this homeless tent, and they had put little tulips all over around their tent. And I thought, you know what? They're doing it. Like, however we're going to go, let's just make the best of it. And that's where, again, that freedom and that conscious shift happens, is when we just accept what is and we go with it. And we're like, let's just surrender our will for the greater will and make peace with what happens.
Totally. We can manipulate it. We can influence it. Like, if a bunch of us go, okay, whatever you're going to do, if we stop feeding, if we stop feeding what's going on with all of our fear and all of our outrage and all of our resisting, if we stop feeding that energy and just go, whatever, just going to flow, I'm right here, like, that will cause an immense change, an immense shift. All of a sudden they'll be like, well, what do we do? They don't care. I mean,
wasn't Gandhi, known for celebrating in prison?
Yeah.
I mean, there's countless people that decided that no matter what happened to them, they were going to rejoice in it and find something beautiful. And I realized, like, I'm just going to continue to do that. And so, how is this going for me? Well, it's freeing me.
Yeah.
It's exciting because I have absolutely no idea what tomorrow brings. I never did in the first place.
Nope.
But as a global level right now, we all are on the edge of our seat of like, what the hell's going to happen next?
Yeah.
This is so exciting because perhaps things will break down and then we're going to rebuild something beautiful and something different and something out of our own dreams. who's to say, but all I know is I'm along for the ride, and I've decided that I'm not going to suffer over this one. I'm going to use it to rip apart those parts of me that have been so afraid and let them liberate the parts that felt chained and controlled, and let myself feel that and move through that and be liberated, and see all this as part of me, opening myself up to a greater experience of human life.
Bingo. Yep, you nailed it. And I would just say, like, as we're going through this, all of those instances where we do have those feelings come up, because they're very real, and they happen to me every day. Like, I'm not above this at all. Like, I feel the anxiety, I feel the worry, I get sucked into the articles, and thank God, thank my work that I have learned that I am God, and that we all are God, and that we have the opportunity to look at whatever that is that comes up in us and really be like, oh no, oh God, like just really feed it, or have an opportunity to say, take me, just take me. Whatever these feelings are, just feel them all the way. Like I really, like, if I get afraid, I want to just feel as scared as I possibly can, because when I sit with that, there's so many lessons in it. When I sit with that, I'm like, wow, that energy is just swirling through me, and the more I kind of give it the attention it's looking for, and stop feeding it but just let it flow, it dissipates so quickly.
Yeah.
And I'm on to the next thing.
Right.
And this whole thing has been the greatest teacher of all times for the entire planet, to go like, hey, the way you've been living, it isn't sustainable. Like, time to change. I know you're really trying to cling on and grip to this way things have been, but I'm pretty positive that we're coming up on a completely new world, a new earth that is going to have a very different landscape, a very different way of being. And it's going to be difficult if you use the past to perceive it. It's going to be difficult if you use what you know from the past to perceive it. The key to having the new world work is to just be open, to look for the blade of grass, to listen for the birds singing, to appreciate the breath, to know that that is wealth. That is wealth that is priceless. It's worth more than all the money in the world.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I was thinking, just as things continue to change, I didn't stay homeless that long. The power of the will of a human soul is just so powerful that we found ourselves quickly out of that situation. I mean, we made the best of it, and then our circumstances changed, where we had some stuff we could sell, and then we found some hippies we ended up living with, and we had the time of our lives. Not to say that it wasn't hard, but it was constantly keeping this adaptable mind and saying, wow, now I'm living in a hippie commune. I just went from living on the beach to now a hippie commune.
Did the cops ever come?
Oh yes, we did have the cops come once, but
all the hippies make the cops. So.
Exactly. The cops told me that, I mean, I looked pretty rough by that point, and the cops told me I needed to leave a park in Malibu because I was trying to wash my hands, but that's a separate story. But in any case, it was all about staying open to the next experience and not judging one as better or worse, but finding the beauty in all of it. And I lived with the hippies for a while, and we had the time of our life, and that's when I started, that was during the 2012 stuff and the shift, and we all celebrated December 21st, 2012 together, and had this amazing time. And we had some rough times, but then just as that all happened, then I found myself back in Portland in the most adorable apartment, and things have just continued to just constantly transform in more beautiful ways.
Yep.
I mean, life will constantly find a way to just keep on moving, and it's about moving with it, and knowing that the butterfly can't remain that way. It's going to perish and recycle, and we will too, and it's beautiful.
Yep. Love it. Yeah, I believe that we are all just recycled. We're recycled versions of the people before us. I believe we all have a little Jesus and a little Buddha and a little bit of everyone in us. And, we were talking about, and it's just kind of a parting note on the science bit, how just like energy, they say that there is no new water, that all water and moisture stays within this atmosphere. And so it never really goes anywhere. It just changes form, turns into steam and ice, and it circulates. And literally, it's so fascinating to think that like your tears and your saliva, the water in your body, the water that we drink, is water that has passed through so much, so many people, animals, beings, plants,
Such a
earth.
trip.
And it makes it so special, because literally you and I and everyone out there is just we're just a repurposed version of everything else that's been, and that's what the future will hold as well. So in knowing that, it's a real sense of freedom to go like whatever is totally okay.
It's beautiful.
Thanks.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, thank you.